Hey guys, and welcome back to A&J Education. In today's YouTube video, we're talking about how to get into Eton College, and we're very fortunate to have Tapi as our guest. Hi, Tapi.
Hi, Sunny.
And Tapi went to Eton, followed by an undergraduate degree in French and German at Oxford, followed by his kind masters. But we're here to talk about getting into Eton. Tapi, great to have you. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks, Sunny. And you? All good?
Yeah, no, all good. Living the lockdown life.
Living the dream, yeah.
Cool. All right, Tapi, look, most of, we get emails pretty much on a weekly basis from students and parents here and overseas, and they say, look, I would love for my son to go to Eton, but do I need to be rich? Do I need to be well connected? I mean, what's the score?
I think fortunately that stereotype is disappearing quite quickly. I think now there are around a third of students at Eton are on some kind of bursary, and it's definitely not the case that you can buy your way in or anything like that. Being connected won't be of a great advantage. The only circumstances where it can help is, on the waiting list, perhaps, I don't know, but if your father went there, maybe it could help rather than an unknown quantity. But even then, I highly doubt that's the case. I think the school has really tried to clean up its image because perhaps in the past those accusations were more correct, but now I think it's very much a meritocracy. Yeah.
All right. So did you get in on merit, or did you bribe your way in?
I would like to think on merit. You never know, but my elder brother was at Eton when I applied, but I hope that I performed well on the test and in the interview. Yeah.
No, nice. Listen, I'm just pulling your leg, but
yeah.
For avoidance of doubt, Tapi did not bribe his way into his secondary school. But listen, just in terms of more of the mechanics. So how does an application actually work? When do you start thinking about an application? And you can just talk us through the process.
Yeah, so you'll take the test and do that kind of side of things in year 6, and need to have submitted your application when you're around 10 and a half, the usual age range. And then there are 3 parts to your application. So on your end, you'll do the test and an interview with a current teacher of the school, or perhaps 2 teachers. And then your school will submit a reference, usually your headmaster or a teacher who's had a lot of experience with you. So those are the 3 major components. But it's not sort of too dissimilar to an application for another school in that respect. But it's all in the year 6 timeframe.
And that is UK year 6 a bit. So for those who are working this internationally, in the UK, there are 13 years from year 1 to year 13. So you're applying year 6 of that. So just to reiterate, so the 3 components. So you do a test, your school submits a reference, and then what was the 3rd component?
It was on an interview, which is on the day of the test. So you'll arrive in the morning, take your test with lots of other students all in the same room, and then they'll keep you in a kind of waiting room, but it's quite relaxed. And then one by one, you'll be called to go into a study to speak for perhaps 10 minutes to a current teacher. And that will just be the usual kind of, what subjects do you like? What are you interested in outside of school? Maybe what books have you read recently? Do you like sport? A nice sort of general, quite relaxed conversation.
And so the ISCB test that students do normally around year 6 normally around October, November. So is that a more recent thing? Did you have to sit that test when you applied?
Yeah, we had the same test. I think it's changed slightly a few sections the last couple of years, but Eton's known for keeping it quite similar each year, not really mixing it up, because it's a very difficult test to prepare for. Or if I told someone exactly what was in the test, it would help them a bit, but it's the strange thing about the test is it changes depending on how well you're doing. So if I was doing poorly on a maths section, it wouldn't get any harder. I would just stick with the entry level questions. Whereas if my friend were doing exceptionally well, he'd be answering completely different questions to me. He might think, oh, I'm getting all these wrong, they're so hard, but it's actually because he started really well and the test gradually increases in difficulty.
The test is adaptive, yeah.
Yeah.
Just again, for viewers, just to clarify, so there are several tests. So the one, Tapi, you're referring to, that's the Eton test that you sit at Eton normally in person.
Yeah.
Apart from this year. On top of this, in recent years, Eton and most other schools have started pre-screening students with a computerized ISCB test that you normally sit in your current prep school, and you do that in October, autumn, and that's sort of English, maths, verbal, non-verbal stuff, and there are a ton of past papers, ton of resources online, and then based on the reference from the teacher and the results of the test, then some students are then invited to the second stage, which is the Eton test at Eton. I think it was probably a little bit.
Yeah, my mistake. We didn't have to do the pre-screening test when I was taking it. Yeah.
No, cool. And how would you say? So, if I'm a mom or a dad, and I'm watching this, maybe in the UK, maybe overseas, how can I give my son, the edge, the best chance of getting in? What do I need to do?
I think it's one of those tests where it's really testing your natural intelligence and your potential as well. So it's perhaps not the answer that people want to hear, but I don't think you can do XYZ tests and then you'll be good to go. I think it's more of a gradual process of reading good literature and sort of pushing yourself to pick up new words, new grammar, doing some maths. But I think that's just part of your daily school life, taking those key subjects and all subjects, but particularly, the English, maths very seriously, focusing on those. So I wouldn't say there's some kind of magic pill, a formula for it. I think just really being having that curiosity to learn more is what Eason's looking for.
And so what you're saying, there isn't basically materials sort of, okay, read these books, follow these instructions, and you're definitely going to get in. You can still do your best, and you can still be rejected despite being very well prepared. Yes,
and I think the same for the interview. If you turn up saying, "Oh, I've read some Dickens," and you've actually hated it, but you pretend that you really enjoyed it, they'll see through that. So they want to see genuine enthusiasm for certain subjects or certain books, that kind of thing.
No, that makes sense. And among the feedback from our A&J students and parents who went through with Eton applications is that at interviews, look, these people, we think we're smart. I mean, their job is to interview people and to see through children, right? So it's very difficult to kind of put on the facade that they won't see through.
No, definitely.
Cool. And what would you say? And again, I often talk about it in my videos, but whether you're applying to a great university in the UK or America, with all of these competitive institutions, I've always felt that there is always a luck element. End of the day, it's someone's opinion of you, and sometimes you can be super well prepared and get rejected, or likewise, sometimes you just get a bit lucky. Is that would you say that's been your experience?
I think not so much for the Eton test, actually. Based on my own school experience, the people who'd done well in internal school exams did get in. There are a couple of anomalies, people who surprised us by getting in, or people who you'd expected to get in who didn't. But those were very much, as I said, anomalies, and by and large, it fit the pattern that we'd seen at school. I think for university, perhaps there is more of a lottery element involved. Why that's the case, I'm not sure. Perhaps Eton's test is just outstanding and they really can see who's got that natural intelligence. But I wouldn't, if you're doing well at school, I wouldn't get complacent, but I would be confident that if you keep on that path, then you'll have the tools required to get the A on the test.
No, that's interesting. No, that's definitely different to university entry. Is for many applications, especially in America, it can be a lottery, especially if you're an international student.
Yeah.
Which would explain why somebody can apply to 8 Ivy Leagues. They're good enough for don't know, Princeton, but then they get rejected by the other 7.
Yeah.
Enough for Princeton, they're clearly over standard. So, it's interesting, and it's good to know that Eton assessment is different. And would you say once you're at Eton, is it difficult to to study? And what's your day to day sort of, or week to week? What's your day filled with?
I think you'll find if you get there that you have a lot more independence than previously. So that can take a bit of getting used to on the studying front, where you need to really sort of knuckle down. So you won't have your parents telling you to get this done. And the school is big, so when you arrive and you're walking around, you have to find your way to the maths department, which is on the opposite side of the school to the religious studies department, and that can be quite daunting. But you quickly get used to that. I'd say it follows a pretty traditional school structure with 3 or 4 morning lessons, then break, a couple more lessons, lunch, then some sport, and then your final lessons, that kind of thing. So I don't think that will be too jarring for anyone. But there's a big emphasis on extracurricular activities. So what would be different, particularly if you've been to a day school, you wouldn't have had that evening experience where some sportsman might come to the school and talk about his life as an Olympic athlete, and that's amazing. And you spend, from 7:15 to 8:45, you're out of your boarding house listening to that, and then you go back. And so that's a very different element of the school, and it's one of the best elements, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I just was thinking about what you said earlier about having the natural intelligence to get in, and just wanted to to get your opinion. Do you believe, whether with Eton or with university applications, is that natural intelligence, is that something you're born with, or is that something that you can achieve with years of work and sort of determination?
I'm a big believer in working hard and people being able to push beyond what you might have expected. I think there's always going to be some kind of limit. You need a certain level of intelligence, but I think most people who'll be interested in Eton or Oxbridge or a top university in America, they're probably going to have enough intelligence, and then with hard work they can achieve what they want. So and there's no point worrying really, do I have enough natural intelligence? You have what you have, and then the determination is what you can control. So that's what I would focus on.
No, that's interesting. It's very similar to my experience in the last 5-6 years working with students. You have a lot of kids who have the potential, they have the brains, and actually I find that majority of students have the potential, right? I very rarely see someone who just doesn't have it, almost never. But the real differentiator is someone is just more disciplined, and that discipline comes internally. Mm-hmm. And someone is less disciplined, and either there is no discipline there, or their parents have to push them. But normally what I find is that it's always the students who have that kind of inner sense of purpose, ambition, discipline, who are prepared to make the sacrifices, do the extra hour of reading or whatever practice on a Saturday when when they could be playing FIFA. They're the ones who tend to do well, at least with with the university applications process.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've had friends who were definitely intelligent enough to get into, say, Oxbridge, but didn't because they didn't put in the hard work. And then on the flip side, people who were less naturally bright than them, but got in because they put in the hard yards, as you said. So that's definitely often the deciding factor. And I think it really shows in your application and in interview. If you're hardworking and enthusiastic, that will come across to the tutors.
Yeah, and they also, again, at least from the feedback we've been getting from our students, you can always tell, and the interviewers can always see when a student, when it's the student's ambition and when they're really motivated, or when it's sort of, their parents kind of pushing it, trying to fulfill some sort of, fantasy or, or an image which can actually be quite unhealthy. And
definitely.
And Eton, just like any school, is great for some students. It's really not great for others. Did you find in your experience, were there any sort of students who got in and didn't flourish and kind of, suffered there because it wasn't for them?
Yeah, I would say if it's your parents' wish rather than your own, perhaps you'd get there and find, oh, this is actually fantastic. But often those sorts of types, they won't really fit in because it is a demanding school. You're expected to do a lot of work and a lot of sport or help out with student drama in your boarding house, that kind of thing. So if you're not enthusiastic, if your inclination is, as you say, to play FIFA all the time, you may find you don't enjoy it that much, or you'll have fun, but then most of your day is spent in the classroom. So if you don't enjoy learning, or if you don't enjoy sort of putting in a shift, working hard, you'll probably find it a bit difficult at times. So I think most people love Eton, but with any school, there's going to be a couple out of every class or year that really don't like it.
Yeah, and again, from my own experience at school and helping students, it's really a bad idea, and it's quite can be quite selfish of some parents to push their children when it's really not right for them, because it can do some long-term damage to your confidence and just sort of happiness, and it's really not worth it, because it's not the only school out there, right?
Yeah, no, that's very true.
No.
Yeah,
cool. Tapi, just wrapping this up. So if you're watching this, and we have lots of younger viewers as well who who are motivated and really interested. So what would your top 3 pieces of advice be to someone watching this, either parent or student, who really wants to get into Eton?
I think my first one would be really try to develop that curiosity to learn. That it may sound counterintuitive, or surely you have to have that curiosity inbuilt, but I think people can, by reading more, by working hard, you see why these subjects are interesting. You see why your teacher might have dedicated their life to history or maths, that kind of thing. So really seeking out new knowledge would be a great help for you. I think also, as we've said, being disciplined and working hard, that's the reality. If you're not prepared to spend those hours studying, then you probably won't get that far. But I find that also is extremely rewarding. If you put in the hard yards and then you get that reward, then it's all worthwhile. So I wouldn't say that's just something that you need to be daunted about. And then thirdly, I would say, it's a cliche, but being yourself is definitely very important for the Eton test and for the interview. As we've mentioned throughout the conversation, if you're playing a role that you've tried to create or that your parents have tried to create for you, it's probably not gonna end that well. And again, being yourself on the test, it may sound strange, but if you're good at English and you excel on those sections, it can be okay not to do fantastically on the mathematical side. I have never been that good at maths, but I'm sure I did well on the verbal reasoning side of things. So that means harnessing those skills, which comes back to the curiosity that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, being yourself it's always a good idea, I think.
Great. So basically, number 1 is to read a lot and develop curiosity. And number 2 is to be disciplined and put in the time. And number 3 is not pretend to be somebody else and to be yourself. Yeah,
you put it a lot more succinctly than I did.
That's my job, personal statement. Yeah. So great. Well, listen to all of you who've joined us today. Thank you. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have a specific question for Tapi, feel free to put it in the comment section below, and maybe with with a lot of begging and being nice to Tapi, he'll kindly agree to answer some of those. But otherwise, don't forget to check us out on Instagram and Twitter, where we also reply to questions. So if you have a specific question, you can message us there. And if you are looking to apply to Eton, remember that your deadline, you need to register before you turn 10 and a half. And this means application form needs to be submitted and sent. So don't miss the boat. Tapi, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sonny. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.